2, 1. We are live.
Good morning. Welcome to this meeting of January 9th, 2025 of the Cannabis Control Commission. Starting a little bit late, we wanted to observe a moment of silence requested by the governor for state agencies today to reflect on the contributions in the life of former President Carter, who passed away at age 100. Certainly a full and exciting life that he led. I am recognizing a quorum of commissioners. I call the January 9th, 2025 meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission order. This meeting is being held hybrid pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 and is being recorded. Commissioners Camargo, Roy, and myself are participating in today's meeting. All votes taken today will be by roll call. We have a full agenda today that I will generally summarize. We will start with opening comments from commissioners and approval of 10 sets of minutes. Then the acting executive director will present the acting executive director and commission staff report before we proceed to staff license recommendations. There is one change of ownership recommendation, 61 license renewal recommendations, 4 provisional license recommendations, 4 final license recommendations, 1 responsible vendor training recommendation, 1 responsible vendor training renewal. There are 5 items in the commission discussion and vote section today. Job description for an employee relations manager, guidance on plans to positively impact disproportionately harmed people, guidance on equity programs, triannual review of executive session minutes, and then our commission election of a treasurer and secretary for 2025. I will ask that commissioners wishing to comment or ask questions during any part of the meeting raise their hand to be recognized. We'll begin with commissioner comments and updates. I'll turn things over to commissioners for any comments or updates they'd like to have. Commissioners will go in alphabetical order and I will give my comments last. So we'll begin with Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner.
Good morning. Thank you. Looking forward to today's meeting. Obviously, happy New Year to everyone and just looking forward to the work ahead this year.
Love that.
I like it. Go ahead.
That's good.
Commissioner Roy.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'll try to be brief. I won't be as brief as Commissioner Camargo, but here goes. I want to take this time to recognize our digital and creative services team, our communications team, constituent services team, and all the staff involved in creating these new medical use of marijuana rack cards. These are wonderful. These cards include information on the Commission's medical program, information for caregivers, new patients, and renewing your medical marijuana registration. These rack cards will be incredibly helpful in the community and will definitely come in handy when our Director of Constituent Services, Kathy Oliver-Jones, and I continue to present to older Americans across the Commonwealth. Thank you again for these tremendous educational cards. I also want to recognize the I&E team for all their work issuing numerous bulletins in recent months across many areas of compliance. These bulletins should be considered as compliance tools for our licensees and help to eliminate any ambiguity. Again, great work by our I&E team. I want to thank Ralph Sacramone, Executive Director of the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, and Ryan Melville, Deputy Executive Director, for meeting with myself, Acting Chair Stebbins, and our Director of Government Affairs and Policy, Matt Giancola, this week, as we continue to address the accounts receivable issue that appears to be plaguing the cannabis industry, not only in Massachusetts, but nationwide. It was a very informative and very insightful meeting as we continue to explore options to address this issue. Despite battling a severe case of the flu and surviving the holidays, I was able to meet with stakeholders, and I want to thank Jason Raposa for inviting me on his podcast, High Functioning. I want to thank David O'Brien and the CBA for having me out to Westfield to meet with approximately 50 licensees. And this week, I want to thank Kevin Gilnack and Eon for having me as their guest for their recent meeting. I always appreciate these opportunities opportunities to hear directly from our licensees about important issues impacting the industry. It is clear a lot of work has been done, but there is much more work to do. Thank you so much for my time today.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. Any feedback from the meetings that you had with Eon or?
Oh, yeah. I
CBA?
mean, feedback, and some of it will touch on today's topics, but some of them won't, like the tip line. And I want to thank you. I want to thank our Director of IT Innovation, Paul Clark, who joined me on that meeting with Eon. And Paul was so helpful and so insightful because some of the items on their agenda falls under Paul's purview, like the tip line that we're efforting to get up and ready to go, and different areas around our open data portal, providing more transparency, let's say around ownership and control limits and open data. So Paul was very helpful, and I know the group appreciated him being there as well. Yep, thank you.
Your CBA?
Again, that was testing. That was all about testing, and I continue to work with our I&E team to make necessary and needed changes in the testing area. So that whole roundtable was about testing. Yeah, thank you for those questions. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Lots to cover. Obviously, our first meeting of the year. Happy New Year 2025 to our entire team, stakeholders, and licensees. First, we want to acknowledge our colleague, Commissioner Concepcion, and her family. Welcomed a happy, healthy baby boy over the holidays. Wishing she and her family all the best. Secondly, want to acknowledge the recent news that Dr. Marion McNabb, a member and leader of our Cannabis Advisory Board, has been given approval by a federal judge to appear as an expert witness at the upcoming hearings to be held on cannabis descheduling, being hosted by the DEA, I believe, later this month. Certainly can attest to Dr. McNabb's work. Third, we're excited about the arrival of our new executive director. I believe March 3rd, is that the date, Debbie, that he's planning on starting? Okay. Thanks again to our acting ED, the entire search committee, my colleagues for their work. I know the AED chief of staff and team are working on an onboarding plan. Additionally, I want to again thank our acting ED and chief people officer, Debbie Hilton Creek, for her work over the past year. That the commission asked her to step into both the acting ED role as well as serving as our chief people officer. Fourth, I just want to thank our constituent services team. They've been working very hard to help a medical patient who has been trying to access an MTC and having issues with respect to a valid ID to present. But I know he asked to bring the topic up in public, but I know our constituent services team is working. I know he's also been in touch with Commissioner Roy and myself. We're trying to, these little problems come up, you're waiting on a new ID, the DMV, don't want it to be an obstacle for folks to be able to access their medicine.
Commissioner Stebbins, if I can interrupt you.
Sure, go right.
Because you're bringing up this topic, just so folks know, so that there's no miscommunication, is that because I actually asked Kathy, the actual paper ID that this patient has, the problem is that you can't, there's no bar to scan when you go into the dispensary. Right. So that's the reason. But when you do have a temporary license, you can drive with it. You could do a whole bunch of other stuff with your paper license, but for some reason you can't. Yeah, barcode. Yeah, you can't do it at that. Just FYI.
May I add on that?
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you. We're interrupting your comments, so I'm sorry about that. But I did get back to Mr. Dempsey, and I was very sorry to hear about this predicament, not having access to his medical cannabis. But I just want to cite from 501-140 that acceptable forms of government ID, and I did email this to him. Government issued identification card shall contain a name, photograph, and date of birth, and shall be limited to one of the following: a driver's license, a government issued identification card, a military identification card, or a passport. So there are other options for folks, and he is a veteran. So I don't know if he has a government issued a military identification card, but as this is a reminder to our retailers that they have to accept these forms of identification for MTC dispensaries. So just as a friendly reminder to our MTCs and to our medical patients, there are other options outside of the driver's license.
I don't know. I appreciate that. Also want to update my colleagues on some changes I've been working with our team on with respect to our agenda setting meetings. Hopefully you've noticed some changes where there are agenda, you're seeing directly what staff are responsible for leading the discussion. Having also participated in some of the meetings that set our agendas, debrief after meetings, as well as organize upcoming meetings. I'll be working with our team and our incoming ED to reorganize some of those meetings. A priority for me is making sure that staff planning to present be included in those prep calls, and certainly I want to ask that staff making presentations be able to do so here with us if it is an in-person meeting. We have a talented staff, a talented team, and I want to give them the appropriate platform to discuss their work. Also hope to work with our team to provide one of those agenda setting meetings be public, so my fellow commissioners can also be briefed on upcoming monthly public meeting topics. So continuing to work on that. I thank our chief of staff. Thank everybody who works on our agenda setting work for their input. 2025, I hope promises to be a busy year for the commission. Social consumption, onboarding and setting new goals for our new ED, considering the exclusivity for the delivery courier and operator license shortly coming up, among many other topics I hope we can continue to lean into. I look forward to our first policy meeting in 2 weeks and our next quarterly listening session in February with respect to our medical program. So with that, we'll move on to minutes for approval. This is hopefully not going to take too long, but I think we need to go through and approve each minutes individually. There are 10 sets of meeting minutes from meetings going back to October 22nd. What I'll do is try to move through these really quickly. We'll have a motion to approve. Second, go a quick roll call vote on these. The first set of minutes is from October 22nd, 2024. Are there any questions or comments about those sets of minutes? Seeing none, Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the October 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. I'll do any other comments? Seeing none, I'll do a quick roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Yes,
We're not allowed to do these in a roster.
I don't believe so. Next set of minutes, Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the October 25th, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the October 28th, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the October 30th, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or question on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the October 31st, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second it?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the November 7th, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the November 14th, 2024 set of meeting minutes?
So
Commissioner Roy, would you second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments or question on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the set of meeting minutes from the November 25th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, Camargo, would you second it?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the December 4th, 2024 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. Finally, Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the December 5th, 2024 set of meeting minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye, 3 in favor, none opposed. All right, breath. All right, we'll move on to the acting executive director and commission staff report. I will turn it over to our acting executive director and chief people officer, Deborah Hilton Creek.
I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good
Deb.
morning,
So
Debbie.
sorry, Commissioner Stebbins.
It's okay.
Yeah, quick question, if I may, Commissioner Stebbins. Do we, Secretary Treasurer, is that going to be on the agenda today in the beginning?
It is.
Okay.
It's,
And
Oh, at the end. Okay. I just want to make sure that we weren't, okay, thank you. Oh, I see it. I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
that's okay.
Yeah, my bad. Debbie, I'm sorry.
Oh, not a problem
Yeah.
at all.
I just didn't know if it was something that had to go in the beginning before the meeting,
you
so.
want to take it out of order?
No, not at all. I was just, yeah, I feel like we haven't done it in such a long time that,
I know.
You're anxious.
2 years.
no. Want to make sure we didn't miss nothing, but I didn't see it. My bad.
No, no worries. All right.
Whole year. It's hard to believe that. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
Hard to believe that it's in the rearview mirror now.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
Exciting times ahead, 2025. Thank you. I have additional operational updates that will be presented at the next board meeting. So for now, I would like to introduce Director Olivia Covell, and she will present updates on cultivation tier regulation, licensing conditions, and licensing data. Hi, Olivia.
Director, how are you?
Good, how are you? It's chillier on this side than down there. All right, so the first update I have are regarding tier relegations. So as you know, 935 CMR 500 050 2D and 501 050 2D state that as part of the renewal process, you know, we can review the canopy that's the amount of product cultivators have sold. And if it's less than 70% of what was produced during the applicable period, we can bring, you know, to the board for your review. So what licensing will do is during the renewal period, you know, we will review this data that's submitted by cultivators and anyone that's selling below 70%, either if it's an indoor cultivator, it will have to be, you know, the previous 6 months. However, if it's an outdoor cultivator, it would be from this harvest. Bless you. And we will bring it up to the board for your review and contemplation, if you choose to relegate or not.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Olivia, Director Koval, I appreciate it. And I know this is something a tool we've had in our toolbox for a long time. It's in the regulation. We're not creating a new regulation today. It's just a matter of enforcing it. And so I appreciate you bringing this up. We hear it time and time again. I mean, I think we have over 4 million square feet of canopy in the state right now. And we hear, you know, the oversupply has caused some price compression. Those are all concerns. So short of, let's say, a moratorium, this is a tool that we can begin to use, correct? Okay, so I just looked at the last night when I was looking at the regulations. If I may read them, I know you kind of touched on them, but in 552D, tier relegation in connection with the license renewal process for marijuana cultivators, and this does apply to product manufacturers as well, or just the cultivators? Yes. The commission will review the records of the marijuana cultivator during the 6 months prior to the application for renewal for an indoor cultivator and during the harvest season prior to the application for renewal for an outdoor cultivator. The commission may reduce the licensee's maximum canopy to a lower tier if the licensee sold less than 70% of what is produced during the 6 months prior to the application for renewal for indoor cultivator or during the harvest season prior to the application for renewal for an outdoor cultivator. Now on E, this is where I want to have a little bit of a discussion. So in 552E, tier factors. So these are the factors that the commission will take into account. When determining whether to allow expansion or relegate a license to a different tier, the commission may consider factors including but not limited to 1, cultivation and production history, including whether the plant's inventory suffered a catastrophic event during the licensing period. 2, transfer, sales, and excise tax payment history. 3, existing inventory and inventory history. 4, sales contracts. 5, any other factors relevant to ensuring responsible cultivation, production, and inventory management. So I think if I could just focus on 4, sales, 5, any factors relevant to ensuring responsible cultivation, production, and inventory management. So that is kind of open for a little bit of interpretation. Would you agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, and so I have received, and I did that roundtable in Westfield, and this came up about tier relegation. So I'm just throwing this out there for contemplation, not that we would decide on this today, but knowing 5 does give us some flexibility. A suggestion that was emailed to me is to, in other jurisdictions now require that cultivators disclose if they are irradiating product. Nevada, I believe, Connecticut, it's on the labels. I am fully supportive of letting consumers and patients know if their product has been irradiated. Now, we don't require disclosure of that, but that's something for this commission to decide if we wanted to do that. So if we decided we wanted to require disclosure of irradiated products, 5 could be open to requiring cultivators to disclose any flower that is remediated during a cultivation process using the percentage of remediated flower as a metric for relegation. If a cultivator remediates more than 70% of their flower, could they face relegation? So that could be a policy decision for this board because we have flexibility in 5, right? Okay. 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 So I guess I would ask respectively, like, if there are recommendations around 5 you could bring to us, like because we don't want to have another concern was, will this give MSOs as opposed to non-MSOs an advantage? So we just want to be mindful of unintended consequences as well. So I think this needs to be an ongoing discussion. Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Director Como, bringing this up. We do hear a lot about this. We hear a lot about it, especially as prices come down. You know, I have the similar concern that I shared with you the other day of somebody who is cultivating but also has a retail facility. Does it give them the opportunity to ship the whole bunch of product and report it as sales? Somebody who might be strictly doing cultivation may not have that option. So I just want us to be mindful of that and be on the lookout for that. But obviously, you know, we've heard about tier relegation, to Commissioner Roy's point, over a period of time. I'm happy that you're bringing it up and kind of reinforcing this message with our licensees. But But I also would like to come back at some point to the conversation about what we might view, or what you and your team and I&E might view as those potential other factors under number 5. Just so we can be mindful of those, we might need to formalize maybe some of those within regulations.
Yeah.
To give them some more definition too.
Yeah.
I mean, it does give us a big carve out for us to take action, but potentially adding some factors might be helpful as well.
Sure.
Go ahead.
And I just to kind of piggyback on what you said, on number 2 under E is transfer sales and excise tax payment history. So we have the ability to request, if it's to Chair Stebbins' point, where it's being transferred to look into that as well.
Yes, and I believe, and DOI can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can also check through metric as well.
I was going to ask you that. Okay.
Doing our due diligence, double checking with metric.
Right. And other states have taken more drastic measures like moratoriums, states out west. And this is short of that drastic measure of imposing a moratorium. This is the soft break, not the hard break. But we will continue to monitor it to make sure there aren't any unintended consequences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I actually met with Olivia and her team a few days ago and asked. Questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. So moving on to the next.
We don't need a vote?
It's an up,
Yeah, there's
No
There's
vote?
nothing.
You don't need us to vote.
this is just an update for now, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next update is regarding conditions. So, as we know, during the renewal, there are certain conditions that may be placed, that sometimes they have specific deadlines, such as, provide a report or information within a certain number of days. So what licensing will do going forward, process-wise, we will reach out to those people that have not responded within the deadline. And if by the following public meeting, we still don't have a response with an update, we will bring it back to the board for your contemplation on how to next for basically the licensees with unmet conditions.
Commissioner Rego.
Thank you. Anecdotally speaking, is there a percentage you think that aren't complying?
That would be difficult. Yeah, I wouldn't want to give you something off the,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's enough where we have to bring this up.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We want to, we want you to be aware of who's meeting the conditions and who's not.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is, yeah, I had a chance to debrief with Director Koval on this topic. And I think it's going to change maybe some of the way I address conditions. I think some of my conditions in the past that provide any update, well, if somebody is not updating or changing anything, they may feel there's no
Subjective.
need to comply or feel they're meeting the extent of the conditions. So I'm already in the conditions, I'm proposing on a couple of licenses for this, changing up the language that they do need to report back. But I want to thank Director Cohen and the what I call the renewal team, because we sit down, I look back a couple of months and see, and the team is great about, yes, we got this person's update, or no, we need to circle back with the licensee. But wanting licensees to understand, serious about the conditions that we propose and ask, we want some type of follow-up as a condition of their renewal. So going forward, appreciate you and the team kind of doing a deep dive into this and giving us an update.
Pleasure.
Hopefully at our next meeting. All right, thank you. Next up.
If there are no comments on this, I guess we can move into the data portion.
Commissioner Camargo, did you have any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking to myself, Olivia, thank you, because it seems to me we're not talking to you guys every single day. We're not, in your cookie jar, but like, it sounds like you've taken a step back to look at a lot of our systems within your department, like holistically, and what needs to be done and how do we make stuff more efficient and where are some gaps. So, thank you. I know we've been going, and it doesn't give you guys time sometimes to stop, but it sounds like you've carved out some time to do this. So I just want to say thank you, because this is the stuff that really matters. And, you know, I always say, like, it's okay to pause. I mean, I know folks want us to move, but the faster we move, the faster that stuff messes up sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that you and your team are taking the time to do that. And it sounds like you have the skills and the experience to do that, and the lens. So,
I do have to give credit to Chief Jones as well, because
Yeah.
she has a vision for the department, and
yeah, good.
she's
Yeah.
driving forward.
Good. Yeah. So it goes to everybody. It goes to everybody, but
Yeah.
it's, I appreciate it because, again, folks don't know the behind the scenes of the stuff that you all do. So I just appreciate it. So that's what I was thinking. So I'm saying it out loud because Commissioner Stebbins asked.
Commissioner Roy.
Yeah, thank you. And I echo Commissioner Camargo's sentiments that you really are taking a holistic view of where we can go to the next level in a lot of areas, and it's not lost on any of us.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
appreciate that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful to hear.
Yeah,
Thank the
yeah, the whole team.
Hearing that, so thank you for that.
In regards to what we discussed today about tier relegation, and I know we have other guidance that we're going to go over, positive impact plans. Other than in today's setting in this forum, how are we going to communicate all of these things to our licensees? Because it's helpful. It's like reinforcement.
So we've had a bulletin go out already regarding tier relegations. I believe it was, say, 2 weeks ago, just reminding them of the requirement, of the possibility, of tier relegation if they sell below 70%. So that's gone out to the licensees.
We'll be on our website as well. And
Yes, it's posted on our website. It was also shared on the metric page and by email.
Okay, and we have a lot of folks that follow us on social media. I don't know if.
I believe it was actually shared on, so I would have
Okay.
to check with comms. I believe they posted it on social media as
That's
well.
helpful.
That's a great. Yeah,
Thank you.
social media is everywhere today. So
I know, I know most people get their news from social media, so.
you're right, definitely. Okay.
Okay,
You.
okay. Continue, Director.
Okay, so we can go to the first slide. I think, I believe we're bringing this today, so the one after. Okay, so as you can see,
Thank you. I thought I felt quiet. All right, so some of the highlights from licensing, we have 4 applications awaiting first review, 3 awaiting supplemental review, 4 applications for provisional license for your consideration, and 4 licensees for final license consideration. And you can see the number of certified active patients. Next slide. Here, as you can see, the numbers haven't changed much. We're still at 714 commenced operations compared to the previous month. The total number has gone up, I believe, by, give me 1 second, by 11, sorry, from the previous month. So in terms of provisional licenses, final licenses provisionally approved. But the commenced operations has stayed the same compared to the previous month. Next slide. This is our wonderful pie chart, as I like to call it. Here we've gone up overall by 7, so it's kind of, not much change between the last month and this month. Next slide, if there are no questions. Sure. Yeah, this is a lot of data to take in. It's
Get that question a lot. How many retailers?
And definitely retail, cultivators, and product manufacturings are always the top, numbers in this grid. You're welcome. Next slide. All right, we are up to the wonderful HCA data. So as you can see here, just some highlights. Compliant model HCAs, we are up to 177. Last month we were at 146. So that's, 31 additional compliant model HCAs. And overall compliant HCAs, we've gone up from 371 to 447. So that is, that is a pretty good jump in a month. Yes. Yes. And compliant towns who have at least one compliant HCA, we went up from 103 last month to 117. So definitely we are seeing, progress in municipalities and licensee using the models and in general submitting compliant HCAs.
Dr. Koval, can you explain the difference? I think it's self-explanatory, but see, 193 are the number of model HCA received, but compliant only 177.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? They doctored it to the point?
Yeah, so some of them, I mean, it could be minor. It could be some of them will doctor it. So they'll add, for example, they'll add an indemnification clause, or sometimes they will omit to sign it, so it's not necessarily anything major when they doctor it. That's not the majority of the issues. A lot of the times we just see literally they'll forget signatures, or they'll forget to fill out the term section, like, identifying the duration, the effective, when it was entered into. So usually it's when anyone submits model HCA, even if it's not compliant at first, they usually most of the time gets rectified pretty easily after a determination notice goes out.
So the total number received 726, and of that,
Yeah,
compliant HCAs of 447.
correct.
So the difference, they're all not compliant, the difference?
So out of the 726, if we go to the next slide, I think it's the next slide, so out of the 726, we reviewed 686, because 726 is the total number that we have in, but we can't get to all of them right away. So we've reviewed 686. So if we subtract the 477 from that, then yeah, we have about 200 that are right now non-compliant, and a determination notice has gone out. And we either haven't received notice back, or, we haven't, it's still non-compliant.
On the extensions.
Yep.
So we voted in May of 2024 to
Mhm.
grant for eligible licensees 100 and up to 120-day extensions. So in May, technically, everyone will be exhausted of that remedy.
Yeah, and it potentially could be even earlier than that, because the first 120 days could be given for any reason, and then the additional 240 days were for HCA purposes. So there is a possibility that in May, when that motion was passed, people had already used 120 days that were for any reason. So yeah, but to your point, yeah, by May, everybody would have.
So we find ourselves with about half the communities, over 100, who have at least one compliant HCA. So if and when this commission wanted to do another, let's say, extension or intervention or remedy, when would we have to act?
I mean, I, again, would defer to general counsel. However, I'm thinking in order to allow people enough time to submit for renewals, for example, people that exhaust their extensions in May, they would have to have their renewal in by April, in a compliant HCA by latest April 30th, I believe, or not entirely sure the date to get it into the May public meeting. So we would you know,
February,
again,
March.
deferring to general counsel, but I think it would be, yeah, before April, just so people.
Okay, because as we know by statute, you have to have a compliant HCA.
Correct.
So many folks will go out of business if this continues to be an ongoing issue. And so we have to decide whether we're going to take further action to help folks come into compliance, but we have to do it in a timely fashion. And I just trying to put a pin like we usually do in this.
Yeah.
So we're all mindful of that a recommendation needs to be brought to us probably February or March, the latest, right?
Yeah, I would say so. That seems to fit.
Okay. Thank you. I think General Counsel.
Go ahead, General.
I may, thank you, Acting Chair. Just to add, I think time is short here, as you recognized, and without knowing the exact date of when those original licensees are up, will have used their 360-day extension. You know, we are bumping up against that clock, so we'll want to act here relatively soon.
You'll bring us recommendations.
Yeah.
Yes, between the both of us, yes.
Commissioner, you said something about half-part community. What numbers?
So I had asked Director Koval in a meeting approximately how many communities are compliant, but it's not one size fits all because some communities may have 9 entities and have 1 or 2 compliant HCAs based on new licensees and not the existing contracts. So we have what, 105 or something that have communities that have at least 1 compliant.
Yeah,
HCA.
we're up to 117 now. Yeah.
117.
But to your point, you're right. Like it doesn't mean every HCA
We
in
say
that.
that disclaimer now so folks know because that
Correct.
was brought to my attention as well. And I don't know Matt might know this, the total number of, because there are no towns. So what are there, 365? How many towns in Massachusetts, cities and towns?
351.
51. And but some of them are no towns. I don't know how many are no. So I don't know what the total universe is.
Right.
And
I don't know it off the top of my head either. Yeah. I'm wondering.
Almost half of the 350.
Yeah.
I don't know it exactly. It's fluid too.
Maybe someone can send this up.
Yeah, maybe Matt and his team. That's where I get the number.
So, you know, just pausing on the slide again, to your point for extensions, I did want to highlight that the extension request did go up. So last month we were at 854 and now we are 993. So we almost went up by 140-ish. So they are definitely being utilized. Okay, do you have something?
Yeah, and they are, and that's great. But I think folks are starting to hit the panic button now. And we're hearing that. And I mean, people have their life savings invested in their businesses, and to have over this to go out of business is, I mean, it's perilous. It feels perilous. So these extensions are super important, and, you know, continued outreach to, and we appreciate Government Affairs just sent out a bunch of our guidance to the municipalities and continued outreach to our friends at the MMA and to work with our licensees because we want everybody to be in compliance and we don't want to see anyone go out of business. So and even though we give these extensions, it's important for folks to know that the Commonwealth is still receiving the fees through prorated fees. So the money is still being paid to the state, even though we are pushing out these in the giving inability, the monies are still being paid to
definitely
the state. So that's important to know.
Yes. Definitely. Next slide. Okay, so this actually we're pivoting a little bit. I think it was last public meeting, Commissioner Camargo had asked us to kind of give an overview of the change of ownership process, just so folks understand what it entails. So this will be divided between myself and the Director of Investigation, Catherine Binkowski. So for the licensing portion, licensing receives the change of ownership application, and there are several documents and, due diligence that we have to do. We have to review the attestation, licensing information, economic empowerment status, ensuring that we receive payment. And a big part is the organizational documents. Some of these applications that we get can be literally hundreds of pages between, all their business plans, operating agreements, stock options, you name it, we've seen it all. So that is a very time intensive process. Somebody does need to go through every single piece of paper and review and check for compliance and, look at Mass CIP, cross-check. And then the second part to that is the background checks and fingerprints. And that's another section of the change of ownership process where we can, there can be a time lag, I guess, because, to your point, during the last public meeting, Commissioner Camargo, people were saying, they thought it could be a fast process, but there are so many things that are entailed in this process, such as background checks and fingerprints, which those can take time. And, we have no control over that. So that is the licensing portion. I will pass it over to,
And thank you, Commissioner Camargo, because this is a really important topic.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you asking for more edification around it. And Sheriff Stebbins, you asked me about the meeting at Eon, and a big portion of the meeting is around ownership and control. It's a big deal, especially for our SCP and EEA folks. And I want to thank Kevin Gilnack and Eon for really stressing this with me. And I'll just say I've been advocating for under our licensing tracker and working with Chief Jones and in the I&E team to bring more transparency. Right now, if you look up, say, Kim Roy's Cannabis, and you will find my location and all of that. But there'll just be an executive summary. So we're trying to advocate for more transparency, perhaps put ownership and control out there, like the Secretary of State's office. If you go to that website and you want to know who owns Kim Roy's Cannabis, you'll be able to find it out. And so we're hearing, and this, I'm just relaying this, what we're hearing, our folks are skirting or trying to skirt the cap, getting very creative. You just said it, you've seen everything at this point. And some folks perhaps have been able to skirt the cap. I don't have proof. I'm not making any accusations, and we're looking at that, but this is what I'm hearing from a lot of folks. And this is a serious issue because it causes harms to other folks who are abiding by the caps. So I think more sunshine around if we're able to work with Paul and his team in IT to get those ownership and control, because then people can take a look for themselves to see who really has ownership and control. So I'm hopeful that this is something we can aspire to get to. So anybody out in the public can look up who owns Kim Roy's Cannabis and see exactly who has ownership and control of
That's a
that.
great point.
So I think that also we don't have the manpower to go back and just spend all this time, and folks can help us because they could bring issues to light for us. So I'm hoping we get there eventually, but I just want you to know this is a significant concern in the industry around ownership and control right now.
Yes.
Yeah, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Roy, I last month I also asked because I remember, when we all look at different sections, I think, of all these licenses, but I also remember that specifically on change of controls, you always mentioned making sure that the diversity plans, are updated and matched when there's change of ownership, not just kind of like, oh, I'm buying this place, therefore let's just go with whatever diversity and positive impact plan was submitted. So that's another reason, right? Like we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But I guess I have a question and also like a comment. In the meantime, the stuff that we put out on our board books, what we get in terms of change of ownership, is that also when we read all those change of ownerships, is that public information?
The executive summary, I believe, is posted on our website.
Okay. but it doesn't show, sometimes you guys have these crazy complicated
Mhm.
maps of who owns this and.
Oh, that, I don't believe that, that's not
Okay.
posted.
That's kind of what we read in our packet,
Mhm.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I was just,
Question.
yeah. Okay, because in the I mean, when our team breaks this up for us, you gotta follow
They're
you gotta
convoluted.
follow the money, right? In terms of all these companies that people create. But okay, just curious. Thank you.
No, great question.
Thank you. With that, I will pass it over to Director of Investigations.
Morning, everyone. Thank you. And if you could just go to the next slide, please. So under the investigations team, we also do have two teams that we refer to as the FIT, the Financial Investigations Team. In those that team comprises 10 investigators and 1 investigations manager at this time. And for any change of ownerships that have to do with an entity change, those automatically, once they're done being reviewed and processed by licensing, those are automatically referred over to the FIT for a formal financial due diligence investigation. Part of that investigation, there is a consistent document request that the lead issues to the licensee. That would be the person having control or ownership on record currently. And that would include comprehensive financial documents, any and all agreements currently held, and those within the past 12 months. We also do a media search and ensure that there's any regulatory body that they're subject to. So for those publicly traded companies, for example, we would look at CEDAR, FINRA. We also check the Secretary of the Commonwealth's enforcement actions, as well as the SEC enforcement actions as well. For some of our multi-state operators, as we know, they operate in many states. I apologize for the background noise. We do reach out to our sister jurisdictions to make sure if they've disclosed anything, that we can check in with our sister agencies to make sure that any violations cited by those jurisdictions are closed out and there's no pending matters that they're involved in. But it is a very comprehensive review of their financials, meeting minutes, any of their governing body, as well as their current and proposed ownership structure with all capitalization tables. And we also conduct a comprehensive interview with proposed and current ownership as well, just to provide a forum both for my team to make sure everything in the application is correct, as well as for the current and proposed ownership to ask any questions as well.
Thank you, Director. And don't apologize for your background noise. We have it here too.
Probably not a crying 2-year-old, but thank you.
Oh, okay. We don't have that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, good morning, Catherine. Yeah. What is, what's the time frame on this? And I know we can never give exact time, but this is a lot. So, how many investigators does this go through? How does, how many folks per are part of the team? I don't know, just some, like Commissioner Roy said, give us some sunshine on this.
Sure, absolutely. So right now, the investigations, the financial investigations team is overseen by our investigations manager, Nicole Sarasoli, and she oversees 10 investigators. That specifically, while they also maintain a caseload, like all our investigators in terms of going out in the field, getting licensees through PPLI, PFLI unannounced, they're also responsible for change of ownership. So they would be assigned out based on caseload availability, and really timing is both based on the investigator's caseload and what they're working on, but it's also largely dependent on the licensee's readiness and ability to get us these documents. We typically send out these document requests within the 2 days we get the referral from licensing. We get these back, and then depending upon naturally the size of the licensee, I mean, if it's an MSO, can take a few weeks to get through. If it's a smaller mom and pop where they're selling and they're just selling to one entity, that can be a quicker review. And some of these documents as well, a lot of the licensees, they don't have them, especially those that may not be operational, they're licensed, haven't been in operation that long. It really depends on the breadth and the complexity of the licensee itself, but some certainly can be completed within 4 to 6 weeks, depending, and that is very much depending upon if the investigator has the availability to really, we get these documents back right away. They can take the days or weeks to really go through them and also setting up the mutual availability for the interview. But we've also had change of ownerships that for various matters, they can take months depending upon mutual availability. If we need additional information, it can really vary, but it's both equal to the licensee's responsiveness and completion of the documents as well as the investigator's caseload.
Thank you.
Either Director Covell or Director Pinkowski, obviously changes of ownership happen for any number of reasons. I would expect the most obvious reason is need to inject more capital, or I'm ready to hand over the operation of my business. We all know you can't run to the local bank, so you take on additional investors, people that provide capital. Are you, and Director Pinkowski, you kind of touched on this with a couple of examples, but what do you see in terms of change of ownership trends, what the reasons might be, or the nature of the change of ownership applications we're trending towards?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a majority of them are, like you said, bringing in additional capital, additional investors. So they're not entirely ceding control and ownership, but they're adding persons or entities within their ownership structure that either exercise indirect or direct control per our definitions, or they're retaining 10% or more capital investment or ownership. So it can be bringing on, silent investors, or it can be bringing on investors that may be less than 10%, but will have a direct or indirect role in the company that, that meets our definition. For some licensees, I would say it's more of a minority. There are some licensees that never became operational, but they're provisional, and they decided the best course of action for themselves was to sell the business, and they were able to find entities that wanted to get into the Massachusetts market. But I would say the majority is adding in investments. We have also seen, of course, total acquisitions and sales as well.
Thank you.
There more?
Nope, that's it. This
I have comments. Yeah, okay. So a couple of things. One is, this is great. I would ask, I don't know how, but that we take these two, this PowerPoint and even a portion of the video, and maybe we can use it or cut it up for our own internal library, our own intranet. Because as new commissioners, I'm always thinking about the next cohort. We have a new ED coming in as well, but we don't go through this. We got to kind of do it on our own, and we have to figure out, okay, what's the change of ownership? And we read through these things, but just listening to this and understanding this is helpful. So it's almost like kind of like a small training or a little guideline or blueprint for us. So it'll be nice to have it somewhere in the archives or the intranet, not just on YouTube. I specifically mean for anybody who has questions here about change of ownership and what does the FIT team do and review and et cetera. So I don't know.
Like easy reference, like
Correct.
easy. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we can coordinate, with IT and ensure that we put that in a place that's easily accessible.
Yeah. And you guys started like at 10:50 or 10:55, right? So, I mean, it's a quick 15-minute thing. The other thing I was going to just kind of make a comment, and Commissioner Roy, I think you've talked about this before, but this is actually, I'll pause on that comment. Let me go to another quick comment is, on our website, we do publish when folks are doing the change of ownership, we do publish the individuals list of all required individuals and their roles within the company. And then we also publish a list of all required entities and their roles. And there's the entity and then the role there. So we do publish that, and it is on our website. So I want to make sure that folks know that for full transparency. And I added the link to our chat for the meeting so that all commissioners can see it. But the other thing I was going to say too is that this is important too, because I know down the line, there's a lot of conversation, and Commissioner Roy, you've brought this up in the past. There's a lot of conversation around the cap. Who can sell, who can't sell, change of ownership and all that other stuff that's sort of happening. I know there was a bill at the State House, last year, and there's been a lot of, I would say, conversation in the industry around change of ownership and the caps. And I think you were talking about that earlier. So, I guess I'm talking to us as commissioners because I think this is going to be, a conversation that's gonna probably take place this year. But also, I know that there's folks advocating for a bill related to the cap and change of ownership and all that. So this is again just good information for us to have, and I appreciate you guys putting this together. I didn't realize it was going to be so quick. So thank you.
No problem.
Sure.
And thank you, Commissioner Camargo. And folks are looking for us to weigh in on this issue and to opine on this issue. We stayed silent last legislative session, and it's going to come around again. And so I feel that it's not appropriate for us to stay silent because so many folks, mostly SCP and EEA folks, are looking for us to vocalize on this issue. So I think at some point we need to add it to the agenda.
I could just say, if I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Roy, I think one of the reasons I'm glad that we're having the SCP and EEA listening session in a few months that I think Commissioner Stebbins is hosting is because there's two sides to the argument, and there's a big quote unquote equity community, and I think that they're divided on the cap. So I think they are looking for for us to weigh in, but I think that we also need to be very careful because whether it's a legislative fix or a regulatory fix, it's a big divide. So I'm just putting that out there, but I think you're right that folks are looking to us to comment, but we'll see where that ends up. But I think having the public session and listening to actual owners that are, wanting to either sell or keep or whatever is going to be very helpful for all of us to hear.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
And my understanding is it is a legislative fix.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think folks are part of our legislative outreach strategy
Yeah.
is to vocalize where we stand on the issue. So I think that's where it's at right now. So I think it'll be helpful to have that hearing. Although we have to be mindful that if we have it too late in the legislative session, it's for nothing, So we just have to maybe do it sooner rather than later.
Going back to changes of ownership, just if you have either you, Director Koval or Director Binkowski, what can changes of ownership run the gamut from really easy to much more complicated? But is there an average timeline that you've calculated in terms of how they move through the process?
I don't have that specific number, and like you did mention, they are all kind of unique situations. So even if we were to get an average, we could definitely try to average things out. It's not necessarily indicative of any one application because, again, these are nuanced. And as you go through the process, you may find, different things, and I'll let Director Binkowski chime in as well. But it's, typically we try to get them all done as quickly as possible, but things arise here and there that could deviate the timeline, essentially.
Director Binkowski, anything you want to add?
Echo Director Koval's comments. I think my team is very diligent in making sure balancing both a thorough and diligent review, but also being cognizant of the fact that these are, licensees' livelihoods. These are their businesses, and whatever their decision to either bring in capital or sell the business, we want to do it expediently and put it before the board for your consideration. There is a complex and comprehensive report that is written, and I can say, I used to be one of the investigations managers of the FIT. The team is very diligent to ensure those reports are written as soon as they're able to write them in terms of conducting the interview, making sure we have all requested information and any completed additional requests by the licensee. As Director Koval noted, the licensing requirements as well, there are times where our reports are ready, but there could be something like an outstanding fingerprint requirement that they need to comply with before we can recommend to the board. So I do think my team, processes them as quickly as possible, and we can I can certainly try to get an average in terms of looking at the numbers we did last year for a follow-up meeting, if that's something that the chair would like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, and you touched on it a little bit earlier in terms of adding somebody who's just bringing capital into an existing business is sometimes an easier lift. A complete change of ownership, complete sale,
Correct.
old owners out, new owners in. You might be able to kind of segment that a little bit and just say, you know, new additions for capital takes this amount of time. Complete changeover of ownership. Obviously, might be a longer period of time, but if you have time.
Yeah, we
I'd
could,
be
we could
interested.
definitely, you know, run between the two of us, we can run some numbers and try to pull some averages.
If I may,
Sure.
just keep me posted on my first kind of recommendation in terms of that, and maybe we can, you can work with Debbie and HR or something.
Yep.
Just helpful tools.
Definitely.
That's it.
That is it for this section, yes.
For this portion, I think we now get to welcome in Annie to help us walk through our licensing.
Hi,
Annie, you're right
good-
out front.
Outside?
Yeah, look
I am.
cold.
It's freezing. It's so cold. Mittens, need those. I do hope everyone's warm in there today. We had snow squalls down where I am, so thank you for having me today. Thanks to our chief and everyone for always letting me present to you today. We do have one change of ownership to present to you today, which is Seaside Joint Ventures Incorporated. They are seeking a change of ownership and control over one adult use license and are requesting to add one individual. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. Thank you, Annie. Any questions on this change of ownership application? If not, I'll seek a motion to approve the change of ownership for Seaside Joint Ventures, Inc. Do I have such a motion, Commissioner Camargo?
So moved.
Do I have a second, Commissioner Roy?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. All right. Next, Annie.
So next up is the staff recommendations on renewal licenses. There are 61 renewals being presented for the Commission's consideration today. Commission staff recommend review and decision on the renewal applications before you, and if approved, request the approval be subject to the licensee remaining in compliance with the Commission's regulations and applicable laws.
I have an abstention on 49.
Noted. You don't have to go anywhere because
You're gonna hand it off.
Hand this off so that I will seek a motion to direct the acting executive director to approve the renewal of license number 49, Resonate Inc., MCR 140827. Do I have such a motion, Commissioner Camargo?
So
Do I have a second, Commissioner Roy?
I have a point of inquiry
Sure.
to the general counsel. So I just for the record, so technically even though I'm voting to delegate this, that's not considered a vote on the license itself. So I am completely fine to vote to delegate.
That is correct.
Okay, just want to, for the record, thank you.
Second.
I will second it now.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions? Seeing that, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo,
aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Stebbins, both sides, 3 in favor. Okay, let's see if we can tackle some of these as a roster. I think we can do license renewals 1 through 28, 30 through 32, 34 through 48, and then 50 through 61. Do I have a motion, Commissioner Camargo, to approve those license renewals on the slate that I've just proposed?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. I have a couple of conditions on 2 of our renewals. The first is for, I believe it's number, excuse me, number 29, which is HVV Massachusetts. License number MCR 1407775. My proposed condition is within 30 business days of approval of application for renewal, provide to CCC Licensing Division a response and explanation of how new diversity plan complies with 935 CMR 500.1011 CHA, 935 CMR 500.1034B. Just to offer a quick explanation, this is a licensee who's been up and operating for a while. They've decided to amend their diversity plan. I have some questions and concerns about their new diversity plan. I would like to ask them to provide a little bit further explanation as to how they feel that new diversity plan still complies with our regulations. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the renewal for HVV Massachusetts MCR 1407775, subject to the condition proposed by Commissioner Stebbins. Do I have such a motion, Commissioner Camargo?
So moved.
Do I have a second, Commissioner Roy?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. The second renewal that I wish to offer a condition on is for the renewal license of Legal Greens LLC, MRR 206824. My proposed condition is within 30 business days of approval of application for renewal, please resubmit your progress, success toward goals and diversity plan in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1034B. I think some of this information might have been missing from the renewal. That's the purpose of the condition. If there are no questions, I'll seek a motion. Commissioner Camargo, Commissioner Roy, would you move to approve the renewal for Legal Greens LLC MRR 206824, subject to the condition proposed by Commissioner Stebbins?
So moved.
Do I have a second, Commissioner Camargo?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any last comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay. Annie, we'll move on to staff recommendations on provisional licenses.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 4 provisional licenses being recommended, being presented today. There will be 4 presentations. I know we see Sugarloaf up there 3 times, but there are 4 separate presentations that I'm going to present. The first is the applicant here is Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC. They are seeking a marijuana courier license with a proposed location of 19 through 21 Belmont Street in Cambridge, Mass. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, you request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Any questions on this first license application by Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC? I do have a proposed motion just for this license that they're pursuing. My proposed condition is prior to final application for licensure, consider revision to diversity plan goal number 2, and clarify how goal can be completed by a delivery courier licensee in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1011C8K, and provide a response to CCC licensing division. Again, goal for me, I just saw it perhaps being a little inconsistent with the abilities of a delivery courier licensee. So I just want to ask them to clarify that as part of their diversity plan. Any other comments or questions on this provisional licensee? Seeing none, Commissioner Camargo, would you make a motion to approve the provisional license for Sugarloaf Cannabis, Cambridge Cannabis LLC, license number, provisional license number DOA 100178, subject to the condition proposed by Commissioner Stebbins?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, Annie, next.
The applicant here is Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC. They are seeking a marijuana retail license with a proposed location of 19 Belmont Street in Cambridge. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, don't have any conditions proposed for this licensee. Seeing none, Commissioner Roy, would you make a motion to approve the provisional license application for Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC, number MRN 283726?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, Annie, next one.
The applicant here is Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC. They are seeking a marijuana retail license with a proposed location of 2447 through 2449 Massachusetts Avenue in Cambridge. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. I have no proposed conditions in front of me for this license application. I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Camargo, would you move to approve the provisional license for Sugarloaf Cambridge Cannabis LLC, number MRN 285089?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Saying none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, Annie, the last one.
Oops, I lost my place, excuse me. The applicant here is Berkeley Botanicals LLC, doing business as Renew Cannabis Company. They are seeking a marijuana retail license with a proposed location of 305 Bedford Street, Unit 1 and 2 in Whitman. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. I don't have any conditions for this license applicant. Commissioner Roy, would you make a motion to approve the provisional license for Berkeley Botanicals LLC, number MRN 284877?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay. All right, on to final licenses.
Thank you, Acting Chair. There are 4 final license recommendations for the Commission's consideration today. Commission staff recommend review and decision on these final licenses, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, I don't have any proposed conditions for these final licenses. Commissioner Camargo, would you make a motion to approve final licenses for Clovercraft LLC, Green Soul Organics, Inc., New England Craft Cultivators, LLC, and U4E Farms, LLC? I just wanted to say that last one.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comments or questions?
I have a comment after the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Director Colville, I've gotten inquiries about the positive impact plans and the diversity plans. Is there any platform that we have where the public would have access to these to look? Because I know the goal is that people achieve what they set out to achieve in these plans. And we do lay eyes on them. And we are taking steps for accountability. Are these public documents? And if so, how can we share them?
So currently they're not posted on our website or anything like in terms of sunshine. So that's definitely something we can have further discussions.
Okay.
That's something the board would like to,
They are public documents, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm deferring, I'm looking at, I
Yeah, I
know the
know.
public can't see that I'm
I know.
deferring to
Public has to
GC.
I believe so as well. I think I'd have to discuss further with Director.
Yeah.
Caldwell to how to
Okay.
happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great question. It might even find a way or requirement that they need to post it on their website.
I like that.
See his websites.
That's interesting.
Thinking a requirement that they have to post it on their website.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it speaks to everything that they're doing to help disproportionately impacting communities and individuals, folks in our SEP, folks in our economic empowerment, as well as what, you know, their diversity plan.
I love that, actually.
Okay,
Chair,
go
I
ahead.
actually love that idea. And would that require regulatory change? Because it's a new requirement. Like if we decided as a commission that licensees would have to post on their website their positive impact plans and their diversity plans, that would require a change in regulation?
And I defer to GCI personally.
I think so, but because the requirement, but
I think we'd have to take a look.
okay, if we could get a legal opinion back to us on that, that would be very helpful. That's a great idea, actually. Thank you.
Move on to responsible vendor training license.
Commissioner Stebbins, can we take a 5-minute break?
Sure. Before we do that, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back at 11:40. All right. All right, thank you. Anna, you're back with us. We'll go ahead with, we have staff recommendation on a new responsible vendor training license applicant.
Correct. So we have one new application for a certified responsible vendor trainer for commission's review today, Marmalade Learning. They are seeking a 2-year certification to provide basic core curriculum training under the Responsible Vendor Training Program and plan to offer in-person and virtual trainings. Commission staff recommend commission review and decision on this request, subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, any questions on this new responsible vendor training licensing? Okay. All right, seeing none, Commissioner Camargo, would you make a motion to approve Marmalade Learning, RVN 4544228 as a responsible vendor trainer?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, would you second that? Motion made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo, Commissioner Roy, and Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy, you had a
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, so I'm going to try to be concise here. So on our website, we do have, if you search responsible vendor training, it does talk about the program, and then it lists all of our certified responsible vendor training classes that are offered or companies that offer it. And I just want to take a moment to recognize Ellen Brown, and she's going to be in the next one where she runs the next one we're going to approve, Green Path Training. Ellen is a veteran, and she's also chair of the research subcommittee, and I'm the liaison. So I get to work quite closely with Ellen, and she's done a tremendous job. As you may have read, she is spearheading and got selected to provide testimony in the DEA rescheduling hearings, along with expert witness Dr. Marion McNabb. So we're grateful to them for their work. But part of the reason I bring it up now is because thanks to Ellen's advocacy, we work to get, if you're a supplier diversity registered, SDO certified, you can put it on, have it listed. So we have 2 cannabis trainers, certified women-owned disadvantaged business, and then we have Green Path, certified women-owned veteran-owned DBE. And for any other RBT companies listening, if you are SDO certified, you can also have your designation listed, which I think is very important. Hopefully our license tracker will eventually have certifications, SCP, EEA. Eventually, that's another lofty goal we may have. But I just want to thank her, and also in regards to the bigger picture of RBT. I know Commissioner Camargo, you've stressed the importance of RBT around social consumption. So that's something we're going to have to really, really focus on. And I think perhaps, to use your word earlier, a holistic view of RBT as a whole. And Chair Stebbins, I participated in one with you, and I know you've taken other classes. I think it needs a retool to be more effective and to teach people really what they need to be taught. So at some point, and I talked to Chief Jones, she had even mentioned it, that we really need to do maybe a revamp or a holistic view at RBT at some point, rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, if I may too, though, I mean, Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Stebbins has sort of led that conversation within our social consumption working group.
Yeah.
But I know it's something that he's been on for, I think, the last probably 3 years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's, while we were doing the work on social consumption, I sat through 2 of the RDT presentations. They're 4 hours long. Really insightful, really helpful. This is, it certainly respect the trainers that did it. They did a great job. But I think Commissioner Roy, to your point, Commissioner Camargo, I think it is approaching that time to go back and take a look at it, see what is provided. It's an annual requirement. Obviously, the information is the same year to year. I'd like to view responsible vendor training as not only making sure that licensed agents are familiar with the law, familiar with what their obligations are, but also try to look at it through a lens of professional development. folks that want to stay in the industry and have the opportunity to move up. So, but thank you, Commissioner Roy, for your points and mentioning Ellen and the work she does. I've had a chance to work with Ellen, actually. There's a new executive director of the state supplier diversity office, and I've reached out to the new individual to see if we might have a conversation about the ongoing partnership that's already existed for folks who get the designation to be registered as a DBE, but also, look for other opportunities where we may be able to partner as well. Okay, Annie, the next RVT training is a renewal.
It is a renewal for Green Path training. They are seeking to be renewed for an additional 2-year certification to provide basic core curriculum training under the Responsible Vendor Training Program. They currently offer trainings, virtual trainings, and since their original certification date, they have provided instruction for 1,239 marijuana establishment and medical marijuana treatment center agents. Commission staff recommend commission review and decision on this request subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. Any questions on this renewal application? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Roy, would you make a motion to approve the responsible vendor training renewal for Green Path Training, RVR 453151?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo, Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Right. Annie, I think that's it. I think you're off the hook.
Not a hook. It's a fun hook to be on. I always appreciate being able to come here, and thanks to INE and thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners, for having me today.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Annie. We'll
Bye.
see you next month, right?
Yes, you will.
All right. Appreciate
Bye.
that. All right, we'll move on to the commission and discussion and vote section. We'll see how we'll start on these. We'll see how quickly we can get through these, but the first item under commission discussion and votes is the job description for the employee relations manager. And I will turn it over to our acting executive director and chief people officer, Debbie Hilton Creek.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I think this was a revisit that was requested by Commissioner Camargo. So I'm open to questions, I guess.
Commissioner.
Was it just me or was it all of us? I had the flow, so I was out.
Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure it was just me. Debbie, I think you and I were supposed to meet yesterday and we didn't, but do you have the job description? Is it in the packet? For this one?
Yeah.
This one? Yeah, it is. Okay, all right. Let me just take a quick look at it if you don't mind.
Acting Chair, may I?
Of course, go ahead.
Commissioner Camargo,
Mhm.
since we did not get to meet. would
Yeah,
you
please,
prefer
let's
that
talk,
we
yeah.
meet, and I mean, this is not like a super urgent role. I don't know if you want to, if you'd like to push it off to the next meeting. We can't until we have an opportunity to meet, because I really want to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
it.
let's do that. I mean, I know we have a meeting on the 23rd, Debbie.
There's no rush.
Yeah, no, but we could do it. I think also my other question, my question as well, the day that we met was, I know that we had another position that we had approved, no, within the HR department back in November. I think it's like an HR manager.
The
position.
HR manager role.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was wondering sort of, obviously the difference, but we can talk offline. I would love that, but also I wanted to get an update on that in terms of how we moved in that position. Because I think we had put it out.
You want the status of that role? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and again, we could talk about it offline.
Oh, okay.
Just because I think that was part of my part of my question around this role was also around that role.
Okay, they're two different roles.
Yeah.
So we can talk. I mean, one's operational and one's employee relations, very different.
Okay, yeah, so I would love that, and we're back on the 23rd, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Roy?
And was a position tabled, the Director of Government Affairs and Policy, is that tabled
Yes.
indefinitely or?
Yep. It was, staff asked to pull it back from this month's agenda.
Will it be at the end of the month?
Yeah.
They'll tell me when they want to bring it back, but
Yeah.
acting ED, if you have more information.
So I believe that was pushed off for review by the general counsel. I understand. That's what I was told.
Okay, thank you for the update.
And just for, if I may,
Of course.
Commissioner Roy, this role as well was tabled.
Okay.
And it's in our packet from last month. I don't think it's in our packet from this month unless I missed it. I know there's like 200 pages. But just so you know as well, so we have tabled this one,
Okay.
and for further conversation, but it'll also give you an opportunity if you haven't to look at it.
Debbie, if I remember our conversation from last month, this was a position, the employee relations manager was a position you plan to fill after the beginning of the fiscal year. Is that right?
Yeah, it would be for the fiscal year, because this is a position that, in order for us to get a new position, once it's approved by the commission, or commissioners, then we actually include it in the budget for FY 26.
Okay.
So it's not a position that we would be hiring within this budget period, which we have 6 months left in this budget period.
And if you're okay to table it, we can move on.
Oh,
Right
absolutely.
with that? Okay. All right. Moving on to the next item. This is the guidance on plans to positively impact disproportionately harmed people. And we are back to Director Cole.
Hello again. Okay. So today, I feel like this doesn't work unless it's like right under me. Today, we have before you two pieces of guidance aimed at advancing equity and addressing disproportionate harm caused by cannabis prohibition. I do want to, shout out as usual that pretty much everybody within the commission has touched these plans. It's been reviewed by licensing, enforcement council, legal, communications, and equity program and community outreach. So the first item we have for your review and approval today is the guidance on plans to positively impact disproportionately harm people. This is an update to the previous guidance we had based on Chapter 180 to include social equity businesses in the realm of disproportionately impacted groups. So generally, the guidance outlines the requirements and expectations for applicants submitting positive impact plans as part of their licensing process. So these plans, are a vital component of our effort to address the historical inequities and harm caused by the prohibition of cannabis. Some of the items that the guidance covers are the elements of the plan, emphasizing specific measurable outcomes and encourages partnerships with local organizations to amplify community benefits. It also covers how to establish goals, track progress of the goals, and report success of the goals at the time of renewal. And it provides examples of impactful programs, including job training programs, educational initiatives, and funding opportunities for community-based projects. With that, I will open it up to you for any questions or comments you may have.
A couple of questions, but I'll turn it over to colleagues.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Roy?
So, thank you. And so just to reiterate, we'd have to go through regulation. Like we couldn't add this up about requiring licensees to publish their positive impact plans on their website. Like we couldn't incorporate that into this document.
Into the guidance, I mean,
Say that again?
I think, yeah, if
Sure. Commissioner Stebbins had I thought, a brilliant idea to have all of our licensees publish their positive impact plans on their website,
On their website.
on their own website. And their diversity plans, because it is a public document. And so I didn't know if there's an opportunity through this vehicle to be able to incorporate that.
I mean, we could definitely add it, I think as a suggestion. I don't see there being an issue with that. I do think, I don't know if we want to think
May, not
about the
shall.
idea a little bit more, just because I'm thinking not everyone has websites. Like I'm thinking a cultivator might not necessarily have a website. So that's something that I was just thinking about after you made the suggestion, because I think it's a wonderful idea. I just want to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to implement it, if you may. But I don't see why we couldn't.
I mean, these are all suggestions.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
on these
Right.
finance documents.
Right. So if that's something, you would like to suggest, I mean, we can.
Like a shall, I mean, a may, not a shall type of thing. You can suggest it.
So maybe like a sentence that's, suggests, the licensee may choose to post the positive impact plan on their website.
Yeah, again, guidance documents are more
Sub-regulatory.
meant to be helpful to
Correct.
help a licensee, understand what we're looking for in the regulations. I'd be happy to entertain that. Again, it could be portrayed as a best practice. You're invited to do that. Welcomes that. So I would certainly invite you and your team. Again, you raise a good issue, which is, do all of our licensees necessarily operate a website? It could be if you do have a website, you might want to consider it. Again, it helps feed information about, hopefully the good work that our licensees are doing with respect to their positive impact plan or their diversity plan. So I invite your team to go back, and if you want to think that through and come back at our next meeting. I had a couple of,
I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead, finish it.
And my other question, and thank you, Director Coble, in section 500-101, a licensee may satisfy their positive impact plan requirement in part by donating to the Cannabis Social Equity Trust Fund at any time once licensed. Is that referenced in the document?
So we reference that. We don't reference it in the section where it gives you examples of goals. We do reference it on page 5, which is adding certain goals into the application section of the guidance. So what it says is the following questions will be asked of all applicants and licensee during the initial application process and at the renewal. And these answers will be used for reporting metrics. And one of the question is, if your proposed plan has a goal of donating monies to the Cannabis Social Equity Trust Fund, please enter the donation dollar amount. So we've incorporated it into the application itself. So even if licensees are not donating to the fund, they still have to answer that question, so we can gather the metrics and, we can keep track of essentially what's happening with respect to that fund. And we do, I do want to put it out there that for licensees that do want to take advantage of donating to the Cannabis Social Equity Trust Fund, please reach out to EOED and ask them, what the best way, what the process is for donating to that fund.
Yeah, I would, just to follow up on that, I'd like to, if we can, craft something a little more specific to this as an option for their goals. I mean, it's part of the statute. It's now part of our regs. My last conversation with the OED, they haven't necessarily put the processes in place for people to make a donation, but obviously we want this document to have some shelf life too. You could fill in a little bit more background information and just say, obviously, to your point, for further information, contact EOED and they can explain to you or walk through how and when, deposits into the Social Equity Trust Fund will be accessible.
Right. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
That'd be a helpful piece to us. Okay. General Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going back to the posting, this idea of posting the impact plan to the licensee's website. And I know that we're going to look at this in legal and get back to you with an opinion. in the event that we do recommend that this be put in reg, I just I want to make sure that whatever guidance that we're issuing mirrors that recommendation.
Yeah.
So sure, just wanted to make that clear.
You're saying, can I,
Go ahead.
you're saying not in regs, not in the regulations, you're saying as a recommendation?
Well, I think the question was, do we need to have regulatory change?
That was the question.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So would that entail then we need to hold off on making the updates until, sorry, so just to clarify, so would we need to hold off on making the guidance updates until you render that opinion?
I think that's the safer route, just so that we're not
I see.
conflicting
Yeah.
Okay.
opinions going back
Okay.
and forth.
Yeah,
I see.
I mean, I'm also of the same mind that I don't want to necessarily help hold up a revised version of it. We may
Mhm.
see that we do need to enact it through regs, and that's a separate conversation to have. But I fully support,
Mhm.
putting it in simply as a recommendation.
Recommendation, right.
Positive impact.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
there's some additional work I'd encourage you to go back and do. So can we ask you to go back and do this, bring this back? Maybe
Yeah, definitely,
in February to give funding.
Sure.
To,
for sure.
Give legal time too.
Mhm.
Yeah, makes sense.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Commissioner
Yeah.
Margot, of course.
Olivia, can we meet, so I can kind of ask you guys some questions about this?
Of course, yeah.
I just want to look at the old one, look at the new one.
Mhm.
Kind of, we got our board books on Monday, so it didn't give us
Yeah.
enough time with all the licenses, so.
Definitely.
Pure, fully honest. And yeah, I'll set up a time.
Awesome, wonderful. So can I move on to the next one, or are we done with this, or are there additional asks?
I think we're done with this one. We can go on to the next one.
Wonderful. Next, we have the revised guidance on equity. I'm not sure if the director of EPCO is here, but I will present it. But if there are any follow-up questions, she may be able to provide more information. So this document provides an overview of the Commission's equity-focused initiatives and the benefits these programs offer to individuals and businesses from disproportionately impacted communities. So this document essentially outlines, the SEP, the Social Equity Program, the economic empowerment applicants or licensee status, the pre-verified and verified social equity businesses, and minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. The guidance outlines all the eligibility criteria for participation in these groups, how to maintain the eligibility, as well as the specific benefits for each equity group. Some of the benefits are, fee waivers of for licensing and renewals, access to business training and technical assistance, priority status for licensing applications, designation as beneficiaries of positive impact plans, shortened municipality response times, and eligibility to apply to the Social Equity Trust Fund. So that's kind of the purpose of this guidance on equity programs.
I don't have questions. I'm not, does this have to be voted on today? You want it to be voted on today?
It's up to the board. I mean, it doesn't have to be today if you need further time to assess.
Yeah, Commissioner Stebbins, just for me, I would ask that if we can give us a little more time, maybe until February, and if not the 23rd or whatever, but would like a little bit more time.
Commissioner Rowe.
Director Coble, is there any language in here about pre-cert for SCBs?
The pre-certified versus SEBs, yes.
Yeah, I didn't, okay, I didn't.
Yes, it should be, I believe. Let me.
Page what?
7.
See it.
I see it first on page 3.
Okay, because I didn't see it.
It's pre-verified. That's
Yes.
why it's instead of pre-certified. So
Gets confusing.
it does, yeah.
I agree. Time with the document would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely bring it back in February.
Yes. Let me ask the question. Is this a new document or, I mean, I know it's dated.
It's a revision, correct.
So
So we currently have, both these outdated, I would say, guidances up. So this would be, just to get it in line with the Chapter 180.
Yeah, this is
Information.
very comprehensive. I mean, you guys obviously added stuff to it.
Commissioner Roy.
So Director Covell, so last month, I wasn't at that meeting, but that guidance was more for municipalities around equity and the evaluation of equity. And this strikes me as more for registered agents, people wanting to, this is more helpful for this cohort, like that population of folks.
So this, my understanding, and it's for anybody in the industry that, for them to understand, who qualifies, to the benefits, for the benefits, how to get the benefits, and just to get basically an understanding of what's available to them. So it could be, it could be agents, but it could also be licensees that have SEP status or SEB's, social equity business status. So it could touch on a variety of.
Commissioner Roy.
So once we bring this back in February, are we voting on this?
Yes, on both guidances.
It's ratified. How do we get this out other than just on, I mean, it's important, it's on the website and our social media, but is there a direct outreach we can send it to folks already in the program, registered agents that we know are SEP, EA, like how do we get it out?
I see Celia actually just joined us on screen. I think she would probably be best for answering that question.
Williams, can you hear us?
Muting.
There you are. Good morning.
It just hit. Good afternoon. I was looking. Good afternoon, Chairman Stebbins, and good afternoon, Commissioners. How is everyone this morning? Afternoon. It's been an eventful morning. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on this topic. And so the guidance of equity, just picking up from some of the information that I've been listening to. So the guidance on equity does include information for social equity businesses, pre-verification and verification application opportunities, and what those benefits are comprised of, and what that designation actually means, and how it's supposed to help you as you negotiate with municipalities in trying to, in your business venture, whatever that may look like for that person or that entity. The plan would be to distribute this information, one, on our websites, once it's live and the application is available for people to apply, which is something that we're working on right now. It is in the works. It is with our third party. Our pre-verification application has been reviewed and designed and tried to make the process very easy and simple, especially for pre-verification, which is for people who are seeking licensure, not necessarily licensed, but not licensed. That's what pre-verification is for. So that application is in the works. I'm almost finished with the verification application, which is for businesses or that are already licensed, that have already attained licensure. And so the clarification for that would be distributed, one, to everyone, general public, right? Because the idea of the social equity, social equity business is that this is an opportunity for entities that have missed a social equity program application period to get the SEP status. And then, as we all know, that the EEA, which is the Economic Empowerment Priority Applicant certification, that period has since closed as well. So this provides an opportunity for businesses to get that designation and give them an opportunity to be prioritized in municipalities when we are talking about negotiating with host community agreements, hopefully with real estate agents that might be prioritizing it, or whatever that prioritization is that's happening where you're trying to do business, that you can get a leg up on that. So the idea is to make sure that it is generally something that everyone is aware of, right? And then obviously our social equity participants and everyone else will also be notified, but it isn't something that is specifically for them because they already have a designation that provides them equity.
Any questions? Director, I had two quick questions for you. Obviously, the SCB program is, kind of a product of the changes through Chapter 180. And I know you refer to it in some pieces in here, but should we be making a bigger statement about kind of the social equity requirements that municipalities now need to have? I saw it mentioned in a couple of pieces. There's a, municipal approach or municipal approval piece to it, but just welcome your thoughts on, do we have an opportunity to kind of expand it out to give a little more background as to what the Chapter 180 changes meant with respect to the equity plan or equity strategies that municipalities now need to have?
So there are documents, so we do have so there's guidance that has been established for municipalities specifically so they understand what the obligations are or what the commitment that we should be making to our equity participants, EEAs, SEPs, and soon to becoming SEBs. So I think that we have, I, in my opinion, feel like we have sufficient information for municipalities to understand what their responsibilities are to infuse this in their jurisdictions and in the cannabis industry. I think there's always an opportunity for us to expand on it and educate our municipalities as well as our licensees and our future industry participants. I'm also working with our not behind the scenes, but something that you haven't seen going on right now, but that is in the planning phase, is working with our Director of Government Affairs and Policies and his team, working with Anne Marie Burt, our Director of Digital and Creative Services, and obviously my communications team, Director Mary Alice Curley, to figure out what that communication looks like, making sure that what those channels are and the information is properly put together and can be digested for the people who are actually participating in the industries like licensees, ancillary businesses. What does all of that look like? And then also what the communication needs to be specifically for municipalities. Exploring this idea with Director Gincola, also what does that municipal outreach look like, right? Getting into opportunities like the state of cannabis or the MMA conversation that'll be coming up later on this month. I believe it's the 23rd. Getting in those rooms and explaining what it is that we're doing, what municipality really means and why it's really important. Understanding that infusing equity into our industry is something that needs to be intentional, right? We need to intentionally do it. And so we all need to put an effort into it. So I think that all of the different communication channels, without being I'm elongating this conversation, so I apologize, but you know how I feel about the work, right? And so making sure that it's digestible and understandable, and making sure that we have specific communications for each target audience. And we're also in the community as much as we possibly can. We already know what the constraints are within the agency financially, but making sure that we put that effort forth, like the RAC cards and different communications that we can do on all of our media channels, and really getting into the community, whether that's with the stakeholders or with our legislators and with our municipalities, to understand that this equity that we are trying to make sure that we infuse and prioritize the communities and the people that have been most harmed by prohibition and just what's going on in the industry today. Like, people feel like they're shut out. And so it takes a partnership for all of us to do it. And so we are developing what that communication is. And this is just one piece of a lot of different things that we are doing within the Chapter 180 working group. So short and long, because I gave you the long version, we do have, and there are communications that will be directly just for municipalities to understand. We can do bulletins and we can do outreach to these communities as communities are having town hall meetings or opportunities for us to engage with them. Or please reach out to us, because I do have communities that reach out to us. Off the top of my head, I can't give any of them, but I have spoken with town managers and officials within municipalities that reach out and want to verify social equity participants, or what does that mean? I will work with Director Gincola to answer some of those questions, because he is our government and affairs and policy advocate and does all of their outreach. So I work with him to get those questions answered. But we are engaging with municipalities that do want to understand We take on a lot here. So it's hard to be like, let me just individually call everyone. But if you outreach to us and you need a conversation for clarification, just like our commissioners are there to help participants and officials that have questions, we do the same. And I welcome that clarification because, you know, what my motto is, knowledge is power. And so we do better when we know better. And so we're here to give that. So if there are any suggestions outside of these current vehicles that we have already envisioned on getting these communications out to all parties, I welcome those suggestions and we'll put that in the wheelhouse.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I know you've been doing a lot of work with Matt. There's certainly a big municipal outreach component to kind of municipal requirements around Chapter 180. I guess when I look at this document, and correct me if I'm wrong, the guidance on equity programs, it feels designed for somebody who would be an eligible applicant to be an SEB or, you know, participate in the social equity program. You know, maybe not designed for a community to benefit from having this guidance in front of them, but an individual, and just thinking through, you know, it'd be an interesting, you know, they should be aware of the requirement on municipalities after Chapter 180. So if there's a spot, you know, again, maybe this is how I'm viewing the document and maybe who this is tailored to, but, you know, putting something in that is they're thinking about where they may want to pursue a license or may want to pursue a business opportunity, being aware of what that obligation now is on municipalities for the social equity piece.
Right.
Might be interesting. I don't think it needs to be a big piece, but something to flag for their awareness. Because it, you know, it is something that is there to benefit them, as all of our programs are, but that awareness, they might want to approach a town and say, what's your social equity strategy?
Definitely.
So I'm just parsing out the communications. I know you want to have municipalities versus, you know, again, how I view this guidance, and maybe there's a, you know, some room to build in both, but.
Okay. No, I definitely, I see exactly the vision. And so who you say that document is tailored to, it's exactly who it's tailored to understand what all of the equity, what the guidance on equity is, what the different equity benefits are in the initiatives. One thing that's not before you right now, but we are building a web page. And so in that web page or building out, because obviously we do have a web page. So apologies, I said that incorrectly. So we're building a section within the website, which is not live yet. That has exactly what you're looking at. And so although I see that you're saying, let's build out this document, the vehicles that we have that would address what you're saying, Chair and Commissioners, and feedback from others is being built out in different vehicles. So this current vehicle is serving a purpose to outline what those equity initiatives are and what those benefits are and how you keep that equity, right? And so that's a target audience. And so the other information that you're talking about educating, you know, everyone, municipalities, and specifically, you know, our equity community about what the responsibility is for municipalities, that is something that is also being built out. It's just not ready for your consumption or public consumption just yet. But I definitely agree that those communications need to be there, and we are steadily building that out as a part of as a part of one of our initiatives within our working group.
Okay.
I just
appreciate that. Commissioner Camargo.
Yeah. Hi, Ms. Williams. Director Williams. It's good to see you. I was just thinking out loud here, obviously, because we're having the conversation, but you know, it's good to hear that we're building out another page on the website. I think, and I believe you mentioned that during your presentation a few months ago. But I'll just remind you all, right, like staff, right, to kind of help us help you all. In the sense of it's helpful to hear what you're saying, but I guess we didn't, while I'm looking at this in the packet, I don't have that context. Yeah. And I think it's also upon us as commissioners to reach out to you all and say, hey, who's the audience for this or what, you know? But also, you know, feel free to always, before these documents come on, feel free to invite right now there's 3 of us, but invite 2 on 2, you know, and I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to everybody, because, and you know, one of the reasons that Debbie and I didn't meet yesterday, I wasn't feeling well, but you know, again, it's to sort of do this pre-work so that we can kind of, when we come into the meeting, you know, we have a better understanding. But I for myself, I do have questions, but I'm gonna wait till after this meeting, since we're gonna put it off, and kind of just, you know, I'll reach out to you. And again, it's good to hear that this is the work out of the Chapter 180 group, because I was like, where is this coming from? Like, who owns this? Who owns this work? Who owns the document? Olivia's here presenting it. You know, so it's a good reminder that this is where it's coming from, and then thinking about who's the audience for, and that's helpful for me. So when I'm reading it, I understand, you know, what's the intent of it. And then the web page that's coming up, that's great. So, so thank you, Talia.
No worries. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Roy, go ahead.
I just have thoughts about an aspirational goal. Like, we offer a lot, technical training and assistance, reduced fees, waived fees, prioritization in the queue. Folks have mentioned in the past, continuous prioritization over other, like, say there's they're remodeling, right? And they need that review. So that's just food for thought, prioritizing subsequent documents. And then also an aspirational goal would be also in the license tracker, having them have that special people might want to shop
Yeah.
SCP or EEA. And right now we can't tell on our license tracker. So it would be nice to have that designation for folks that want to shop that way.
Commissioner Roy, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm so like, I'm so sorry because I'm always bad
No
at
worries,
this.
no worries.
So I'm raising my hand. I can't find the button.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Just-
Commissioner Roy, and then Commissioner.
Yeah,
Camargo
no,
will
Commissioner-
be able to
Oh, it's okay, Commissioner Camargo.
give your thoughts.
Yeah, no, just you continue, Commissioner Roy, but really quickly, right now, you can see if it's SCP or EEA, is that it's like a new, months ago when we I think, refreshed the website, it's just comes out, it's harder, I think. But, not harder, but it's just different. So if you go to the website now, you can see it. And I see, Anne Marie sitting here, who,
But in the license tracker, it's
yes,
there.
Correct.
yes.
Priority column.
Anne Marie, do you want to?
Yeah, this is important stuff.
Listen, you guys own your work. You guys do a lot of work on this stuff. Own it.
GC, can you slide over
Yeah.
for a moment?
Here, back on the seat. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm on the license tracker now.
Hit a button on the.
Just so that we have the
Come back to
clear.
this, Leah, hang on.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I was going to say the same thing. So thank you very much, Commissioner.
I
Camargo,
see
for
it now,
bringing that up.
SCP.
Button on the thing.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi.
I am Director Burt, Director of Digital and Creative Services. So on our current licensing tracker, we do have a priority and expedited status column that lists several different statuses, such as general, SCP, EEA, DBE, and MTC.
Thank you.
We brought you up for that. That was great. Commissioner Roy.
Can you filter it that way?
Yes, actually you can. So if you click on the priority / expedited status header on that column, it will sort it it's alphabetically.
That's awesome.
We got a live tutorial.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm doing it now. I'm
I
doing it
got
right
too many
now.
windows open. I'm not going to try.
I'm doing it now. Thank you.
Did you have something else you want to add?
I can add that I have been working with the IT department on automating the licensing tracker through our Tableau database and dashboards. So that is in the works. I've been keeping Commissioner Roy informed about the progress on that. So hopefully we should have some sort of a prototype to share soon.
Work.
All right, thank you. Director Williams, sorry.
I had the same, thank you very much. Thank you, Director Burt, for showing us that. Yes, I was going to say the same thing, that people can identify, if they prefer to shop that way, Commissioner Roy, it is something that is identifiable on our website. Not to be redundant, because 3 people just told you the same thing, so apologies, but that was what raised my hand.
Slick.
All right, so thank you, Director Burke.
Thank
Can I
you.
just make,
Go ahead.
I know this happened because we start talking about one thing and
I
then
know, Lee's doing it.
But this is just a good reminder, and Debbie, I'm looking at you and Commissioner Stebbins, you guys, set up the agenda, but at some point, we should have, your team, I know you sit under the communications team and the digital team, but you all should also give us some kind of update on everything that's happening in digital world, I know we have new folks on digital media, social media. Yeah,
If I may.
yeah.
We are setting up some lunch and learn sessions that should be happening through the next few months. I was actually looking at scheduling one during January. I just need to run a memo up to the AED to have a discussion with her about it. But we are planning to introduce the team, talk about the work that we do, show some examples. And if anyone has requests for specific tutorials, like walkthroughs of the website specifically, then I'm more than happy to set up additional sessions for anyone in the commission who's interested in attending.
That's great.
I would just go one extra step is whatever that ends up being, I would welcome you guys to do it for the public meeting as well at some point. Just so that,
Yeah.
The world
But yeah,
knows
it's fun.
all the work and, there's all this, listen, we have tons of tools on the website and look at us today.
I know, I didn't even realize.
And I think it's important for people to see that, know it's there, use all those tools, exhaust them, and you guys are doing all the work. So, own it. Like, come on down to the public meeting.
You're in the communication space. Being in public should be no problem. Sorry. All right. Good suggestion. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. Director Burt, so at the beginning of the meeting and with Director Koval, I was talking about in this license tracker, the summary section. And right now it's limited to the executive summary. So along the lines of more sunshine and transparency, like the Secretary of State's office, the ownership and control, if down the road, that could be a place where it could be housed in that area. So not only are you looking up the license, its location, if its designation, but some folks want to have more information. So I'm just throwing it out there for contemplation about whether or not that it could go in this area.
So I have brought up your feedback on that to the data team, and they're looking into the feasibility of adding that as
Okay.
an additional data point
Awesome.
within the automation. And there has been talks of they're looking into writing particular scripts based on the license numbers of the applicants to be able to fetch documents related to each licensee and then pull them into that view.
Wow.
So we're looking into it.
Awesome.
We're still in the preliminary stages, so I don't want to make any promises at this point, but I am having some discussions with them about
Fantastic.
the ability to be able to write those scripts to pull in the documents. And we also had that in mind as well when we updated that search functionality over the summer, so that if you plug in a licensee's number, you should be able to pull up some of those documents. Now, currently, I know it's a little bit of a workaround, but it's sort of a path from getting from point A to point, F in a line of things that we're trying to solve from a technological standpoint.
Awesome. Thank you.
It'd be interesting to just see if there's a way to connect our licensees with their information in the Secretary of State's office.
Oh, that's a thought too. I'm gonna put these.
Yeah. Benefit of public meeting, right? Anything else for obviously setting approval on this aside for a little more review by commissioners so we can bring it up at perhaps the February meeting or even our second meeting in January, but certainly by the February meeting, we can bring it up. Okay.
Thank you.
Director, thank you. Director, thank you. Director, thank you. All right. The next item is the periodic review of executive session minutes. I've been asked to set this aside as there are still some questions about some of the meetings minutes included. Obviously, if we want to have a discussion about those exact meeting minutes, we need to do that in an executive session. So we'll table this item as well. All right, flying right through all the commission discussion and vote section. The next is the exciting portion of today's meeting, the election of treasurer and secretary. I will entertain a nomination or a motion to ask a commissioner to serve as treasurer. Do I have any motion, Commissioner Camargo?
I nominate Commissioner Roy to continue her fabulous work as the treasurer.
Yes, I would be honored.
All right, very good. Don't have to ask you.
I didn't have to do a reelection campaign or
I
anything.
know, just a little point of evidence for folks in politics out there. You can see. how
Well, I
quickly
did
we
make
can
a
get this
joke that we would decline and give you all of it.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. All right, I will second that motion then, Commissioner Camargo.
Mhm.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
I can vote for myself. Wait a minute, General Counsel, I can vote for myself on this.
I think that'll be
There's
okay.
no
I
conflict.
think that's okay.
Okay.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed.
Amazing. And I just want to, okay.
An acceptance speech, go ahead.
Yes. So, I want to thank my colleagues for putting their trust in me as treasurer. But I want to thank Chief Schlegel, she's at the back of the room. And I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to work with her and her team. They're fabulous. They're so dedicated at their jobs. And I've learned so much over the last year, and I know we're not a startup anymore. So some of the things that worked at the beginning are kind of outlived their shelf life, and we're in the process of looking at different areas. One she doesn't even know about. I got to share with her our meeting with the ABCC yesterday. They gave us some good insight that I need to share with you, Lisa. But I just want to thank the team. They've been amazing to work with. They're so dedicated, and we're doing great things in finance to get us to the next level. So I look forward to working with you again in 2025.
We should ask Lisa if that nomination was okay.
Are you-
All right, thumbs up. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep.
Appreciate all the work you've been doing. Next, I'll seek any nominations for a commissioner to serve as secretary. Commissioner.
I have a nomination.
You?
Yes, I nominate Commissioner Camargo to continue her great work as secretary.
Commissioner Clark, are you willing to accept that nomination?
I don't think I have a choice. Yes.
Yes. And I will second Commissioner Roy's motion. Any further discussion? Any other candidate? Whoops, seeing none. We'll move it
You don't
to
want
a
it.
roll call vote. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. All right.
My acceptance speech.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
You have the floor for 15 minutes.
Thank you so much. No, for 30 seconds. No, all jokes aside, I just want to thank the legal team, Kajo. I know you've been here a few months, but your team, and everyone who works on these minutes, Commissioner Roy, you've done this before, and Commissioner Stebbins as well. And over the holidays, I asked the team, when do you need this by? And they're like, well, we want them done before so they can make it on the agenda. So we've caught up on minutes. It's a lot of work. And Ivania, Brendan, Mike Baker, the young woman, can't think of her name. Rachel, I'm so sorry. Rachel, and Kajo, who work on all this, public requests and all these things. So I just want to say thank you. And I will say to my colleagues, there's some new trainings that we have to do to make sure that we're in compliance. So make sure you do them, including myself. But yeah, looking forward to it. And I'm glad that we're going to continue in it just so there's some continuity as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. Thank you, Commissioner Roy, for willing to take on these roles. Greatly appreciated. Next item is also included in the packet is the January 2025 Government Affairs and Policy Shop Report. Our next meeting dates. As I mentioned, we have January 23rd is our first policy meeting that is coming up via 10 a.m. Some of the agenda is not finalized yet, but it will include conversation with our transporter licensees. I want to have a conversation around badging. We'll fill that agenda out, including maybe some items that were brought up at today's meeting. Then you see the rest of our meetings through the year. February 13th, February 27th is the quarterly listening session we plan to hold with folks in medical program side of the house. There's also a chance we could be having an executive session on January 17th. But we're still checking calendars for everybody. There is no other business that the chair did not anticipate. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo?
I'll say one last thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I forgot someone in my acceptance speech.
Go ahead.
Michael on the legal team, the other Michael. Yes, yes. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, who else did I miss? So I just want to say that I'm really grateful for them and their expertise. Commissioner Stebbins, before we go into the motion to adjourn, you mentioned that on the 23rd, we're going to have part of our policy is going to be a listening session with the third-party transporters. Have we notified the third-party transporters
We
yet?
have an invitation that's hopefully dropping today or
Okay, today or tomorrow. And then I just want to remind everybody that the social consumption informal comment period is due on January 23rd. So it'll be helpful to us. Anything that you can send in terms of comments, bullet points. I haven't thought through yet about a sort of a hearing for social consumption comments. I know we talked about it last month, but I'll get back to us on that. So just want to say that.
on that note.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike, and reminded us of the informal comment deadline. Do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Roy, you want a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, the protocol vote. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
And Commissioner Stebbins votes aye. 3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I did a good time there. That was,
Yeah.
and